They came at dawn, not Earth's dawn, but the pale blue sunrise of Caro's Reach, a small frontier colony at the edge of civilized space. The colony was young, its population barely 50,000, its defenses little more than automated turrets and a local patrol frigate. Families were just beginning to put down roots in the strange red soil, dreaming of a life far away from the noise of galactic politics. And then the Rithari came. The Rithari Dominion was old, cruel, and hungry. They called themselves Shepherds of the Void, claiming that lesser races required domination, lest they squander the stars. They came not for war, but for demonstration. A fleet of 12 blackened war cruisers descended upon Caro's Reach. Weapons hot, shields glittering in the pale light. They jammed the colony's desperate distress calls, silenced the frigate with a single lance of energy, and then opened fire on the civilian settlements. Cities became ash in minutes. Towers collapsed into molten slag. A school dome, full of children, vaporized without ceremony. The Rithari commanders broadcast their slaughter across subspace for all nearby systems to see. Their message was simple. This is what becomes of humans who forget their place. When the screams died, when the colony was nothing but glowing ruin, the Rithari gathered the survivors. A few thousand huddled, broken souls, and executed them on live broadcast. Not for military necessity, not for conquest, but for spectacle. They laughed, they mocked. They called humanity fragile vermin clinging to a forgotten world. And then they left, satisfied with their lesson of terror. The galaxy watched in silence. No one intervened. No one dared. The Rithari believed they had proven their dominance. They had no idea what they had awakened. The mockery of tyrants. For weeks after the massacre, Rithari broadcasts spread through the galactic net. They replayed the burning of Caro's Reach as if it were theater, narrated by smug commentators. They breed like pests, one voice jeered. Soft, sentimental. They begged for mercy in 10 dialects, another added, followed by cruel laughter. And Earth? Their warlord sneered, seated on a throne of obsidian steel. Earth is too weak, too civilized, too slow. They will file complaints to councils, write songs of sorrow, and then bow their heads. Humans do not retaliate. They endure. The Dominion believed themselves untouchable. Their fleet stretched across hundreds of systems, their empire unchallenged for centuries. Humanity, in their eyes, was a scattered, primitive species still catching up to the galactic stage. But the galaxy, and even the Dominion's own vassals, whispered uneasily. Because there were old stories, half-remembered, about Earth. Stories of the Interdiction Wars, when humanity's dreadnoughts burned pirate armadas from orbit. Stories of ground wars where human infantry fought like demons in trenches of fire. Stories of fleets that vanished into deep space, black banners raised, promising to return only if humanity was ever threatened again. Most dismissed these as myths. Humanity had been peaceful for centuries, sending envoys and colonists, merchants and explorers. They smiled, they traded, they compromised. And so the Rithari believed they had struck safely. But in hidden chambers of the galactic councils, voices whispered, what if the old fleets still wait? The silence breaks. The response did not come in a day, not in a week, not in a month. For a time it seemed as though the Rithari were right. Earth issued no statement. No fleets appeared. Colonists mourned quietly, their cries drowned out by galactic indifference. The Dominion grew bolder, mocking Earth as cowardly, toothless. But then, the silence shifted. In the void between stars, old signals stirred. Buried frequencies, silent for centuries, reactivated. Forgotten transponders lit up across the dark gulfs of space. Ships long thought abandoned began transmitting ident codes that had not been heard in generations. The first sightings were dismissed as rumor. Merchant convoys whispered of black ships moving silently through the void, hulls gleaming with old Terran insignia. Pirate clans vanished from their strongholds overnight, their outposts reduced to smoldering wreckage. On a dozen Outer Rim worlds, Dominion garrisons received a single transmission. Caro's Reach is remembered. Judgment comes. When the Rithari attempted to jam the messages, they failed. The signals carved through every blockade, unstoppable, reaching every comm array in the galaxy. And then humanity spoke, in a voice colder than ice, broadcast on every channel. We were patient. We were kind. We were quiet. You burned our children. You will know what we are. The galaxy froze, and then humanity moved. The gathering storm from Sol. The fleets departed. They had been building for centuries in silence. Hidden shipyards in the Oort cloud. Construction rings buried in gas giant storms. dry docks concealed beneath the frozen crusts of moons. Earth had smiled at the galaxy with open hands, but behind those hands, they had prepared. The first fleet emerged from Neptune's shadow. 200 warships, black as midnight, engines burning white-hot. Not sleek, not elegant, but brutal. Each one a fortress of steel bristling with weapons. Behind them came the carriers, vast city-sized vessels that released swarms of smaller ships like hornets from a hive. And then came the dreadnoughts. They were not merely ships, they were moving continents of metal. Kilometers long, armored so heavily that suns themselves seemed to dim when they passed. Their names were etched into legend: Retribution, Deliverance, Ashmaker, Vengeance, Eternal. The Dominion laughed when the first reports arrived. A trick, an illusion. Humans cannot field fleets of that scale. But then the fleets did not stop. From Mars, from Luna, from Titan, from Europa. From hidden colonies long erased from star charts, humanity had been patient, but never idle. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the Black Armada gathered. Stars seemed to disappear behind their ranks. Subspace itself trembled with their passage, and in every broadcast, a single phrase repeated, spoken in a voice without emotion: Chaos Reach is remembered. The fire unleashed. The Rithari Dominion sent fleets to intercept. They died screaming. Human war doctrine was unlike anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. The Dominion's ships, graceful and proud, fought with precision and ceremony. Humanity fought with fury. Missile storms blotted out the stars. Kinetic rounds, slabs of tungsten accelerated to near light speed, punched through war cruisers as if they were paper. Drones swarmed like locusts, overwhelming shields, tearing through engines. Human marines boarded crippled vessels with brutal efficiency, slaughtering crews room by room. The Dominion called for reinforcements. Humanity burned them. On the ground, it was worse. The Rithari prided themselves on their warrior castes, towering armored soldiers bred for domination. They met human infantry on the ash plains of Morthon IV, and were broken, because human soldiers did not retreat. They did not fear. They fought with cold, disciplined rage, augmented by exosuits that turned them into walking tanks, supported by artillery that rained fire from orbit. The Rithari, who had mocked human fragility, discovered that fragility was a myth. They discovered what it meant to fight a species that had learned war on Earth. Cities fell in days. Garrisons surrendered in hours. Entire Dominion fleets vanished into debris fields. The galaxy watched, horrified, as system after system burned. And then the dreadnought Retribution arrived at the Rithari homeworld. It did not open fire immediately. Instead, it broadcast a message across every channel, translated into every tongue. Chaos Reach is remembered. You taught us cruelty. We answer with silence. Then its cannons roared. The shattered throne. The Rithari homeworld burned for 9 days. Continents cracked beneath kinetic bombardments. Oceans boiled away. Cities that had stood for millennia were reduced to molten wastelands. Human ground forces descended in endless waves, storming the great obsidian throne of the Dominion. The warlord who had laughed as Chaos Reach burned was dragged from his palace, shackled and brought before the surviving Galactic Council. Humanity did not kill him quickly. Instead, they broadcast his trial, his crimes listed in unflinching detail, and then cast him into the void, airlock doors sealing behind his screams. The Dominion collapsed overnight. Vassal states rebelled. Fleets surrendered. Survivors fled into hiding, and everywhere, carved into the ruins, the humans left the same message. We were patient. We were kind. We were quiet. You burned our children. Now we are none of these. The lesson of silence. When the fires finally dimmed, when the fleets withdrew, the galaxy was left in stunned silence. The humans did not stay to occupy. They did not claim territory. They did not demand tribute. They simply left, fleets vanishing back into the void, dreadnoughts returning to the hidden docks from which they had emerged. What remained was ash, wreckage, and fear. In council chambers across the galaxy, rulers whispered of humanity with dread. They had thought Earth weak, harmless, forgettable. But now they knew. Humanity's patience was vast. Their mercy was genuine. But when that mercy was betrayed, their vengeance was infinite, on smuggler stations, in refugee camps, among soldiers who had survived the storm. A phrase passed in hushed voices: never provoke Earth again, because the forgotten humans had returned, and the galaxy had learned regret.